Hi, it's Ricky of Moshville Times here once again. Now, tonight we've got a Bristol-based technical progressive death metal band, Embodiment. Now, Dan Carter of DC Sound Attack has been keeping me very busy of late, and he has put Embodiment's name forward for me to interview for tonight. So that means that they must have something to say. So tonight we have guitarist Finn and we have vocalist Harry. Guitarist Sam and drummer Leslie couldn't be here tonight, but that means that we can just talk about them behind their backs. So, how are you doing, gentlemen? It's good to see you. It's the first time that we've met, but honoured to meet you. So, how are things with you guys?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Good. Yeah, really good. Really good.
Cool.
Really
Cool.
excited.
Tell me about it. That's Dan Carter's fault. But I noticed since the last time Moshville Times has spoken to you, Kieran's since left the band, and Sam, another guitarist, has joined. So, how are things now? And I hope that you still made Sam audition twice for the part.
So that when Kieran left the band, we hadn't quite decided exactly what we were gonna do. If we were gonna have another bassist, if we were gonna have another guitarist.
Yeah.
We sort of bounced around a few different ideas. And Sam, used to be in a Scaris, and he'd left sort of not too long after that had happened. So it was like it just sort of aligned, and we know Sam. We've played loads of gigs with the Scaris for a long time,
Yeah.
and he's a good friend of ours. So it was quite an easy fit in to get him. It was just a case of, like Les said, can he play the material, yes or no? And he turned up and he could play the song. So, and Finn can speak on it. He's been already helping with some songwriting and stuff.
So I was going to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
are you going to search for a bassist and make yourselves a five piece? Or are you going to see how things go just now?
Probably see how things go. It's not necessarily a big priority for us, I would say. At the moment, getting a fifth member. I mean, it's hard enough trying to navigate four members to get
Yeah.
schedules together for like practices and make sure we're all free for gigs and all this kind of stuff. So I would only say it's still undecided.
Yeah.
Um, but things have been going pretty well as they are. Don't know if Harry wants to chip in.
We also have a five-seater van, and we always like to bring our sound man, Gabe, with us. So if we had another seat, maybe we'll consider another member.
Or, I mean, it's only a bassist anyway, so he can bring his own car. So, yeah,
But no, it's probably something we consider, like maybe down the line, but at this point, no.
yeah. I mean, you guys have played a number of gigs. We're going to talk about gigs much later on, but you guys have played a number of gigs since Kieran's left. And has Leslie coped with that? Do you find that is working on the live environment? It's definitely something that's different because everybody will be looking on the stage and who's a bassist, but it still sounds so good.
Funny enough, it's not. It's not really something that's come up in terms of audience. It's not really affected how we played the gigs. It's not affected the response we've got, the offers that we get. I mean, everyone who books us knows our situation at the moment, and we haven't encountered people who have sort of said, "No, we're not going to take you because you don't have a bassist," or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Well, just
Yeah,
when you do the incantation gig, just get the bassist from incantation to do the bass for you. The vocalist, I've forgotten his name. That's terrible. a death
it,
metal legend.
God, they were awesome, man. They were so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. But I'm just wondering, Finn, what was the reason for getting Sam in? Like, are you wanting some of the pressure taken off you to bring some risk to the table, or are you welcoming it, or what's?
Well, I wasn't much in. Well, I was involved a bit, but I think the decision to get another guitarist actually came off Harry and Les. Um, and in some ways, because I've been the sole guitarist for such a long time,
Yeah,
it's a bit of a shock, really. But it's worked out really well because since being in this band, I've been a massive control freak in terms of songwriting and how things have got to go and how they got to sound. And I'm still all of that, but having
You're not.
someone to come to the table who can actually offer some kind of creative direction as well as me, because I do take charge of a lot of the songwriting as well.
Yeah.
It does relieve pressure, but I've never really thought of it in that way. But in my experience, my favorite part about being in a band is obviously I love playing the shows, but it's still putting the songs together, getting creative and hearing everything together. And once you've got everything together, more things come in your head and you're like, oh, this bit could move up here.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing for me. So I wouldn't really say it's deliberately there to take pressure off or anything. I don't think it was seen like that either. I mean,
Yeah.
It's been a happy outcome.
Yeah,
Good.
it has done, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Good. I just wondered if it was like Finn's face when Sam comes to the rehearsals and he says, I've got a couple of riffs for you, and Finn's like, you what? No.
Maybe 10 years ago or so when we first sort of started the band, but I think I'm very open with stuff, I would say. If I don't like stuff, I will say I don't like it, but I will try and compromise and try and come up with solutions that we can integrate both ideas. I mean, Sam's had a great impact in us already, even though we've not written music with him. He's had great ideas for like set lists. He's had great ideas for integrating songs together. So if that's any indication of what we're going to get from him, then I'm always,
So it's not like you guys were getting stale or anything like that, but do you feel like Sam's just kind of given Embodiment a further kick up the backside to keep going? He's bringing a lot to the table.
So when we had the initial discussion with him, to join the band, one of the things we made clear was that like we didn't just want someone that was gonna learn the songs and play the songs, and not have a say in the band, as a whole. So we were looking for another member, not just like a dude to play the songs. And he was really keen to like get his teeth stuck in. And I'm sure if he's here himself, he'd say, he said to us, it's been really good for him to join the band because it is very different to what he was doing with the Scaris. So creatively for him, it's something he's doing, having to learn to do techniques that he necessarily was avoiding before, or not avoiding, but not encountering with Ascaris's music.
Yeah. But what I'm taking from your answers is yes, you still made a audition twice. It's good. Cool. But it's been since 2020 when you released Palingenesis, and can I just say, I also have a radio show on a Thursday night, which you can see behind me, where I play extreme metal, and I will ask permission to play a song. Thank you for choosing an album title. That is reasonably easy to say, so just keep that in mind for your next release. But something tells me, though, since it's been 2020, something tells me that you've been up to something, but you quite haven't told us yet. So what have you guys been doing recording-wise since 2020 then? What have you got for us?
So I've been working on a lot of material, a lot of songs. It's hard writing music, I find, because it's not something you get yourself into a mindset to. It's something that, from my experience, just hits you at a random point. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You could come up with something in your head and then you got to go back and tweak it and actually write it down and stuff. So we have been writing music. We've got around 5 tracks still in sort of demo stages, but we are looking to release one this year that we've been working on a lot more.
Is there discussions as to whether it's going to be an EP, or do you think it's going to be another album? Do you think?
Probably EP, I would say, but who knows at this point? The way the industry is kind of going, EPs seem to be a more sustainable thing for the industry, where it's changing because of the access to content that we have and everything in that regard. So it's easier to consistently write singles and just release singles than it is. It's a lot more time consuming to release albums, and especially for like promoters, if they're in the same way that we are, they're always looking for new material at a very constant rate, which isn't necessarily something that I think comes easy to a lot of people. So
Well-
staggering your approach, I find is a bit easier for myself. But
Yeah, well, with Palingenesis, it was like we made a concerted effort to, like, I know you did, to, like, write a cohesive album that was like flowed start to finish and had like self-referenced itself throughout the album, and there's stuff like that throughout the album. And then with these ones, we took a bit more of an approach of like, we'll just write some songs and then we'll release them and see how that goes, and if that turns into more or a flowing album, so be it, or if that's just going to be like 5-track EP like Finn said, that could be what happens. It was to take it a little bit easier this time. When we released Dragged Into Hell before Palingenesis, that went really well and people loved the single. I think it's still one of our top tracks on Spotify in terms of just streaming numbers, so it's kind of proof in the pudding that the singles approach is very effective.
It's a discussion that I have in a lot of my interviews. The older generation still like their album, couple of years album. So the physical product, the lyrics, the artwork, and all the rest of it. Whereas the younger generation, like Portrayal of Ruin, for example, they like doing single, couple of months single. It's just like a double-edged sword. You don't know what's the best approach, but you guys aren't shy in doing videos or singles or EPs or albums. So, like you say, it just depends what you've got ready at the time. So, but yeah, it's a discussion that I have a lot. But you say that you've got 5 that are pretty much at their demo stage. How would you say the sound is compared to the previous album?
I think every band kind of says this, but it's evolution in some ways, and it's
our heaviest, most melodic release.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, with Palingenesis, I kind of, well, in the writing in the past, I had the the mindset to try and force myself to like write into different genres. I think we're trying to do at the moment, and I think with Palingenesis, I kind of like let that go a bit, and I just went back to what, in terms of riffs and guitar solos and parts that I grew up with, and the things that like make me smile or make me gurn or whatever, if you know what I mean. So it's definitely more along that kind of approach. I'm still stripping myself back to the sort of material that I grew up with and I love and I know that everyone else loves, and that's just how it's going. I mean, I think with Palingenesis, the biggest difference that we'd had is I'd started being a bit more open to adding sort of synth and orchestral tracks into it to sort of complement the arrangement and to sort of thicken out the music, and that's definitely something that's going to be continuing on later releases.
On a lesser or a more extent, do you think?
That's an interesting question. Well, the main point of the synth parts in Palingenesis is to reinforce parts. If there's additional leads that need ambience or just emphasis, I find doubling it up with a different timbre of instrument is more effective than just adding another guitar part in, or it just kind of helps to point the focus to the part that I'm trying to point the focus to, instead of it sort of being a not necessarily guessing game, but that's the only sort of phrase that's coming into my head. Like, what's the focus at one particular point? I don't know. I need to reinforce it.
Yeah. I do like synth and keyboards. Like when bands do it right, like Flesh God Apocalypse or Septic Flesh, I love that. I love it. But when Lorna Shore, for example, it can sometimes be too much. In small doses, yes. And like you say, just keep on doing what you're doing. As long as it's the same as Palingenesis, then yes, you'll have another fan. And you do have another fan. And can I just say that my favourite song off the album is Rise of the Oppressor, because it's an instrumental and there's no vocals in it. So
there's 2 tracks. There's 2 instrumental tracks on the album.
There is.
I'll take that. That's fine.
No, but I mean, there's parts of it where, I mean, Cattle Decapitation are one of my favourite bands, and I'm sure you've said that there's vocals here that sounds like Travis could be singing here, and there's some guitar parts that are doing the same. But yes, there's elements of deathcore, there's elements of traditional death metal. I mean, for example, there was like blast beats in Eternal Torment. So it was like there's a bit in every single song for everybody. So fair play to you guys.
There's no restriction. We've always said this, like when I joined the band, and one of the things Finn and Les used to say to me is like, we just write what we think is cool. Like we're not trying to be like this or that or whatever was pop, because like when we started the band, like this kind of gent sound was very popular, and like not saying we hated it and actively avoided it, but it like wasn't the thing that we did. So it was just like we didn't ever try to fit into whatever. And it's always been that. It's never been like, oh, we're a death metal band or we're a whatever band, And I know like I've got different influences and Finn's got different influences and Les has like different influences. So nobody would ever be like, no, we can't have a part like that, because like everyone's like, how funny would it be to have a part that sounded like a pop punk part or like whatever. I know there's always references. There's a drum part in Eternal Torment that's got like, as he calls it, the pop punk part. And I guess some death metal bands be like, no, we can't have a part like that, it's far too cheesy. And we're like, that would be pretty funny, wouldn't it, to have a part like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for that. But so you released the album, and then of course we all know what happened for like 18 months and things like COVID. You couldn't meet up with each other and things like that. But for example, Finn, how was that for you? Was it a creative time for you? Did you just pick up the guitar again, or was that a time where you just went, you know what, I'm sick of looking at the guitar, and you just put it away and you just self-reflected or whatever?
I think there's been stages where that has maybe been the case sometimes, or I just find myself with different priorities. But with COVID, it was strange because I wasn't off for a massive extended period of time. I was off for about six weeks in total before I returned to work. But I was roughly the same. I mean, yeah. I did pick up the guitar, I did learn some stuff, I did write some stuff, but in the same way that I always do, I recorded them on my phone and I tried them in different ways, and some of them worked, some of them didn't.
Yeah.
I do still find myself going back to my notes on my phone and listening to things that I wrote around that time and seeing if I can integrate them. But it's, I don't know, I think the meeting up, we still would talk and we'd still mess each other and see how things were going. And
that's the thing, you found new ways of doing things. Like interviews wouldn't be conducted like this 3 years ago, and now it's the norm for everybody. But is he still sending you riffs at 4 o'clock in the morning, Harry? Saying this is my best riff yet, by the way. Listen,
no. It's more like he sends me riffs at 8 p.m. and then I see them when I get back from work at 4 a.m. and message him back.
To be fair, like during COVID, a lot of the time that I would spend in my free time when I was off work was going down to the post office and shipping out any pre-orders that we had. It was unbelievable. Like that time.
I was going to say, that's the thing with like the pandemic for us, is where we released the album like pretty much the same, 2 weeks we went into lockdown or something. We were so busy with like album stuff that like thinking about writing for the first bit of the pandemic wasn't really a focus, right? Because we just released the album at that point. So we were selling like loads of merch and like sending out PR stuff and that at that point.
Yeah. Has it made you look at the more business side of the band? Are you kind of like DIY, like do it yourself, and you carry on with those aesthetics? You've taken on roles in the band that you didn't think that you'd take on, like somebody's doing social media, somebody's doing the merch, somebody's doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say social media has always kind of been like Harry's priority, like social media and PR. I've always been, well, I'd say always, it's kind of shifted that way from lockdown, funny enough. It's always been me sorting out the merch, me sorting out the stocking, stock counts, reordering, shipping, design. Well, I say I sort out design. I don't sort out design, but we've got a designer, and we've worked together on a few things. So I tend to sort of communicate with him about what we sort of need, and like how the best way to sort of integrate it into like the print design, because that's just where I fall.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed like Hellripper, for example, and behind him he had like all these merch, and it was just shelf upon shelf of shirts and stuff like that. And it was, you're staying in a bloody mansion, and it must be the same for every band, like all the shirts and the CDs and everything lying about. But I guess it's nice to have your room back.
We've got a sort of like spare room, and it is pins and knuckles boxes at one point, about 6 or 7 to 8 boxes just stacked and stacked.
Well, hopefully it's a lot less than that now because people have been buying them. So long may that continue. But you're saying that you've recorded, well, you've got like a number of songs at demo stage and things like that. But is there anything about the way that you recorded Palingenesis that you'll continue to use and have a settled formula? Or are you quite open to finding new studios, experiences? Or do you think that you've got that formula that you're happy with and you'll just stick to it?
I think the way that we did Palingenesis is the modern way to do it. I think it's not necessarily that I feel like studios are not necessary anymore, but in terms of practicality for us and doing it DIY, I mean, I've got a load of like studio experience myself, so
yeah.
I handle all the mixing, the pre-pro, the recording, for when we need it. But being in a band with, in this day and age, everyone has the ability to kind of record themselves.
Yeah.
So that in some ways speeds up the process because they just get it done in their own time when they need to get it done. And I can just message them. They can message me back. We can have meetings like we have. This is actually one of the ways that we started writing this new material is I would set up meetings with our drummer and just show him that everything that I had for a song, and he would kind of communicate with me back and forth, and we'd kind of go over bits and try different things while we're still just on a call. So it's not going to be the sort of thing which is like we have to meet up and practice, do the songs, then record the songs, and then we hear them demoed, and then we're like, oh, maybe we don't like this bit, maybe we do, we need to change more things. It's so instant that we can do all of these things. So
yeah,
I haven't got a massive implication to try and change the way that we're doing things at the moment, but
yeah. So
me.
If you done like the mixing things, who mastered it for you? Did you master it as well, or did somebody else master it for you?
No, we had we've got a mastering engineer called Guy Joyner. He's self-employed, works for a company called Signpost Audio.
Okay.
He's been my mastering engineer for quite a few years now. He's just great to work with. He does things maybe not conventionally that you'd expect from like a mastering engineer, but he does get very good results. So I still keep coming back to him, even if I'm just doing a little project for myself, you know, or if I'm mixing other bands or anything like that. I always kind of integrate Guy into the equation because I just like mixing my stuff, and then I'll send it to him and he'll get it back to me within a few days done, and then I can carry on the project. So
Sounds good. But it must be quite good for you, Harry, because these guys are writing music for a year, saying stuff like that, and you don't do anything, and then 2 weeks before you enter a studio or the album's recorded, you write shit. I better write some lyrics then.
So yeah, as you'd imagine, that's probably how a lot of it goes. But when Finn's writing riffs, he does like to send them to me, and then I don't have a huge amount of like theory knowledge or something like that, but like I can recognize, a groove or something like that and say to him, have you tried thinking about this or that? And, that's how I feel I contribute, with the songwriting, obviously in a small way. But then when it comes to the lyrics, I usually have themes before the songs come, and I'll write out some words, and then when a song comes, I'll try and find the rhythm of the parts, and
Yeah.
then I'll change lyrics around the rhythm. So like if a part comes in and Finn sends it to me and I think, oh, these lyrics would be good, but now because of the structure of these parts, the flow is going to have to change. I'll change lyrics around that. And I sit there with the thesaurus and I sit there and try and fancy the words, use some eloquency in it. Because I'm a pretentious person, basically. Because I'm in a technical death metal band, it's a prerequisite.
Absolutely, absolutely. But there was something I was going to say. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I speak to like another vocalist. Like recently, I was like Quando of Brain Bath. He says he's already got 15 songs lyrics written, and the music hasn't even been started yet, but he's already got 15 songs ready. Are you pretty much half and half? Like you've got, what type of like lyricist are you? Do you always have a piece of paper and a pen on you, and you open the door and you see something in the street, you take a note of it, and you expand on it later on, or do you wait until
Yeah, it'll just suddenly like strike me, and I'll be like, "Oh, we could do a song about that." I mean, Finn was sat there the other night when we were sat there, and I can't remember how we started talking about it, but I was like, "Oh, we could do a song about like, uh, it's a very simple. I like a simple concept, and then to over exaggerate it or like really blow it out." So this one was just about staying up too late, but rather than like, "Oh, it's just a song about staying up too late," it's like you're enslaved by the moon by a curse, or do you know what I mean? And try and just work like that. That's how I usually start. It's like a simple concept, and then like, how can I use a metaphor or something like that to try and like, I don't want to directly say it. Although on this new material, that's something I'm actually keen to do, is have like one or two songs where I am a little bit more direct about exactly what I'm trying to get at.
yeah,
I never want to be too blunt though and like bash people over the head with it, because I do think music is generally subjective in interpretation.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. Is Finn, is he on the wacky backy when he writes these lyrics? Is he smoking something when he's writing these lyrics about the moon cursing you and all the rest of it?
Couldn't possibly say.
no comment. No comment.
No, that's cool. Are you still writing about your love of anime and sci-fi films? Is that still going to be a theme, or are you going to change that to knights and dragons and swords and stuff?
This is what I mean. I try and take like whenever there's a song about. I mean, on the last album, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do songs that were like social commentary or songs that were like just big, like say big dumb fantasy or sci-fi songs. So I kind of went for a blend of that type of thing. And on this material, I'm gonna try and make a point about something, like I say, but use like a fantasy setting or a sci-fi setting to kind of do that.
Yeah.
I've got a song at the moment that I'm thinking about, which has it's a song about anxiety or this kind of thing, but I'm gonna use the a zombie sort of thing as a overlay for it. It only makes much sense to me, really, but
What goes on in that boy's head? But do you welcome lyrics from? Do you welcome contributions from other members of the band, or do you take solo ownership, like Finn was with the guitars and the riffs and the solos and all the rest of it? Were you like that with lyrics? I'll take care of that.
well, generally I do write like all of it. Actually, my partner helped me with a lot of the lyrics for Palingenesis, and then I'd go to Finn and he'd help me like be like, oh, that's potentially a little awkward. We'll change that or do that in a different way. Put this part here or something.
Yeah.
But then I am totally open to contribution, because when we were doing the album, we've got a song Masquerades, and I was like, I just do not know what to do for this song. I'm not sure what I want to do with it. And so I just gave it to Finn and said, if you do something, I'll look at it, change it a little bit maybe, and then we'll go with that. And yeah, if you look at the credits in the album, that's Finn's song. So yeah, I'm totally open to any contributions from anyone.
Did you actually change it, or did you keep the majority of Masquerades?
The majority of it, like 99%, but I'd like if there'd be like one too many words, and
Yeah.
I'd be like, there won't be a way to take a breath here. This is impossible to actually perform, or something like that. It's, you're not a vocalist, so you wouldn't think about that. It's the same way I'd be like, oh, let's just do a drum part that's like 200 BPM solid blast beats. And it's like, yeah, let's not do that. Yeah. It's like...
I was going to say, like, do you write 10 words in a line and stuff like that? And then Finn will come in with like a 3-second riff, and there's no way I can put that into 3 seconds. I'm sure he just does that to deliberately annoy you. But cool. That's great. Thanks very much for that, guys. But let's talk about the visual side of the album Palingenesis for a wee second. I think the last video that you released for the album was Reverence Through Disgust. And you're talking about, like, you've got 5 songs demoed as well. Do you have plans to do any more videos before your next release as a prelude to an album or an EP? Have you thought about that already, or is it still too early?
I mean, I still think videos are 100% on the table. I think a video is the best way to promote a release, from the get-go. I mean, we haven't really discussed it all too much, but we are all keen to do videos for new releases, especially the first one.
Yeah, it'd be a good way to promote Sam as a new member as well. So, we won't be doing anything more now for Palingenesis. Reverence Who Discussed was sort of released as like a bookend on the Palingenesis release cycle. And then the shows we've been playing at the moment are sort of still focused mostly around Palingenesis material. And then when we start to release these new songs, that's when it will sort of be the beginning of a new cycle, and Sam being the start of that, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that you do your videos. You don't do like lyric videos, and I don't know the costs incurred for a lyric video or the videos that you guys do. But I like the fact that you have an active performance in your videos. You've got a message, you've got a theme with it, rather than just doing the graphics and the tilted stuff and the lyrics and stuff.
We did one lyric video before, and the guy who did it, he did a great job on it. There was nothing wrong with it, but we thought it wasn't that visually stimulating, really. So I don't think it's something we're going to be rushing to look at again, unless we had a good gimmick for having a reason for a lyric video.
So who's got the visuals? Who's got the visual brain? Who's the one that comes up with the ideas as to how the video is going to look?
I'd say it's kind of collaborative. I mean, I can't necessarily remember whose idea was it to go in that direction, at least for Reverence Who Discussed. I mean, Tyrant, it was all based around the lyrical theme that Harry had. So I've got an old school friend who I've worked with for a number of years. Don't work with him anymore. Not related to band, but because of the sort of jobs that we do. But he took Harry's lyrics ideas, formed an entire storyboard. We went down and filmed sort of 2 solid days with him, and it all just came out of Harry's head, really, in terms of where the art style had run from that. But in terms of artwork for Palingenesis, I still think that's more Harry's department than mine.
So with Tyrant, basically, I was with Ant at that's the guy, our friend Ant at Bloodstock, and I said to him, I'd love to do a music video. I've got this song Tyrant I'm writing, and it's about like authoritarian dictatorship. It's got some sort of like
how apt is that at the moment?
Exactly. Well, it is aging very well, and I hope it doesn't, though, to be honest. I hope it one day it's aged very badly. But I read that song, and at the time I was reading a lot of books around about North Korean refugees and stuff like that from people that had escaped, and it was quite shocking. And I was learning more, and then I was looking at our own government, and I was sort of like, oh, I won't comment on that too much. And So I was with Anne at the festival, and I said, I've got these ideas. I really love to get this kind of theme. This is the kind of thing I'm thinking about. Is it would be a video like this, and it was like a film. I had I think it's called Equilibrium, the film. That was I was kind of thinking about that film, and the way that the police in it looked and stuff like that. And then he took that idea and just basically ran with it way more than I ever could, because he's got a mind for video creative visuals. And when we got there to do the shoot, yeah, I was actually blown away. Finn says it was my baby. I mean, I had the initial idea, but really Ant was the mastermind behind the Tyrant video. We give huge credit to him for that, and the work he did was phenomenal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then for Reverence, we knew we wanted to do a performance video. And we just hired a room, put up some black tarp around the room, got some lights, and played the song.
How many times did you play the song in the day, though?
Quite a few.
Yeah,
You're sick of it now.
Kieran ripped his jeans open from going so hard, if I remember right. He split his jeans.
Nah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. But it's still going on with the visual side of the album. The artwork for the cover. Who did you get to do that for you? And what I'm interested in is what did you give them? Did you give them the lyrics of the whole album? Did you give them the whole album? Did you say, this is what's in my head, this is what I want you to portray? Did you actually have a draft drawing that you done yourself? What did you give the artist and who done it for you?
So again, I had someone that I worked with when I was working at the cinema, and I was on sort of like a team member on the tills level. My supervisor used to doodle on there'd be like a timesheet, and he'd doodle on it, and his doodles were incredible. And I'd see him and I'd be like, oh my god, these are fantastic. And it was kind of in this graphic novel art style that I loved. So I was like, if I again start with an initial idea and you help me create something, because I knew what I wanted to do was I love Iron Maiden and Disturbed, and I love the mascots that those bands run with.
Yeah.
And I was like, we could do that. That could be a really cool thing to do. You don't really see bands embrace that kind of thing anymore. It's not cool or fashionable, but again, we're not cool or fashionable, as I sort of alluded to earlier. So we were like, yeah, that would be sweet. And he helped sort of design the initial creature. And then I knew for Palingenesis, what I wanted to do was homage an old artwork, but with a new modern sort of style.
Yeah.
So the main inspiration, and maybe if you look at it again, you'll be like, oh, I see it now, is Dio's Holy Diver, which is one of my favorite album covers.
Okay.
With the cliffs and the water at the bottom. That was kind of how I thought about that.
Yeah.
And then the big sort of demon creature was based around the lyrics becoming a bit darker with the button themed. And that's why on the album cover, the creature is holding onto a heart and squeezing it. And our first album cover, the self-titled, is a heart on the album cover. And it's the same heart, but it's being crushed. And it was to sort of represent the change. And also Palingenesis it kind of means change, rebirth. So that's where I got that. And I was like, this is kind of a theme that we were feeling at the time, was this is the proper release. Not to say the self-titled wasn't, but 5 of those songs were re-recorded. We wrote 3 together. So it was kind of like a mishmash of old and new songs, whereas Palingenesis was the first time we'd all been solidified writing together.
Yeah.
So that's how I thought about that with the artwork.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what you're going to do next. If it was a heart and then the heart's bled, so it'll be interesting to see what you're going to come up with next. But that's for the artist to worry about. But that's absolutely amazing. It was just your guy in the cinema that you work in. Absolutely amazing. That's DIY for you. You didn't, although I'm pretty sure if you had the budget, you might reach out to Dan Seagrave to do a cover for you, but maybe another time.
The thing is, we love the fact that it's friends and people we're close to being involved, because it keeps it all in.
Yeah, do you get him involved with T-shirt designs as well?
He does everything. He does everything. The logo, the artwork, like all the T-shirts, everything. We've got a new T-shirt we're actually working on. We were working on earlier today, which we're hoping to get out in time for the Bloodstock set, so we can sell it there. And he does incredible work. And we've always just said to him, you tell us what you want to be paid as well. And I like that we're helping support him as well, because obviously he probably gets a large amount of, as like we do with like, oh, we'll pay you in a good exposure, or pay you like 20 quid to do it, that seems fair. And like no, I like him to feel like it's a professional relationship, you know what I mean? It's not just like, hey mate, do me this for a favor. Like, I want it to feel like we have a professional relationship.
I'll get you promoted in work. But like, is it just Embodiment that he does stuff? Have you like triggered something in him to do things for other bands, or is he solely just doing it for you guys now?
Yeah, so he was doing like graphic novels and stuff like that before, and then he said, I want to get into doing metal bands. Like, funnily enough, I love like metal and stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, you can do our band, and that's kind of how we started there. But yeah, I've seen he's done other bands. He did a gaming website or something, a gaming blog. And then he's done King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. He did something for them as like a vinyl box set. He did some artwork for them as well. So yeah, he's gone on to do some more work with that, which is obviously great. But like, I like to think he is the embodiment artist, I'd like to think.
Yeah, absolutely. If he doesn't, then just tell me to pick up the rubbish and work. But yeah, so in relation to song structure, I know that we've talked about it, but with all the personal tastes in music, then how do you keep it all together? Like when you're constructing new material, like how do you negotiate what stays in and what goes out of a song? And I was just wondering if there was a moody one in the band, is the one that's always the hardest to please, or is there somebody that goes in a huff all the time?
Yeah, that's me. Everyone else was thinking it, Harry would have been
No.
So it's not really been too much of an issue. Like Les has said to me before, because I do tend to do like a lot of programmed drums in my demos to send over to him, just so it's easier to record with, it's easier to get a vibe from. So I'll give him my entire idea of what I was thinking drum wise, and he does. Well, he said like quite a few times recently that the way that he thinks about drums is the same way that I think about drums. Whether or not that's just because we spent too much time together, or the same bands too much. There hasn't really been, even on Palingenesis, I don't think there's been any conflicting interests of songs, at least from what I can recall. We all seem to be on the sort of same page. But as I said, I'm very much a collaborative guy. Like the writing of the music is the thing that sparks me up the most. So if I get an idea and I don't necessarily like it from someone else, I might not necessarily be, let's just say on the day someone says, I don't like that, let's do this instead. Obviously my first thought is always, no, I don't like that. But I give it a few days, or maybe like the next day or something, and it's still in the back of my mind, and I always try and accommodate for other people's ideas and what they want to add to it, or how they want to change stuff up.
Yeah,
I think this band has kind of like helped me grow a lot as a musician, I'd say, because before I joined this band, I did like a load of solo material, and I was still doing solo material at the time that I joined the band. So I was still in that mindset, so I hadn't really adapted. But being in this band has really helped me to move that along.
Well, but to be quite honest with you, Finn, I'm quite disappointed in your answer there, because I was expecting like blood on the walls and fights in the studio and stuff like that, but it doesn't appear to be any of that kind of drama. Maybe there will be, because Sam will be bringing a shitload of riffs to the next rehearsal, you know what I mean?
I've heard some of Sam's riffs already, you know, and I really like them. So I'm sorry, this Embodiment isn't a drama band.
So I can give you an example of this recently where like Finn and I went to go see Vil Valor from him, and we were in the pub before just having a pint, and we were like talking about how, you know, we both love him and Vil, so this isn't like a knock, but like they tend to use this like kind of drum pattern a lot, and I was like, well, why don't we have a song that has like a drum pattern that is like similar to that? And then like within a few days, Finn was like, I've thought about what you've said a lot, and like here's something that could work. And so yeah, you know, it's never like no, we're not doing that, you know, or something like that. And even if it was, you always explain why. You would be like, that doesn't work because of like the chord structuring here, or like the way the tempo changes. So it's never, you'll never just feel like you're shot down without being told why
Yeah.
it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Well,
That sort of softens the blow a little bit. Like you're never like you're shot down, but here's a reason, an explanation.
I knew what you were saying, Harry. I knew what you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I'm not scared to come in with an idea, not at all, not at all.
Yeah. Well, I see you've got a guitar behind you there, so you bring your own riffs to the table as well. So I'd imagine, mind you, you've talked about him a couple of times. Him doesn't belong in Embodiment, so keep that. Him does belong in Embodiment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just me and Finn. I don't know how much Sam and Les love him. So.
I think Sam is a bit of a fan. He wanted to go see Veal.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure how much Les loves it.
Nah, but like,
get him as a guest vocalist on one of your next albums or EPs.
We'd love that. We would love that. Absolutely love that.
I prefer to have Lind, actually. If I could get Lind to like slay a solo on there, because he's definitely got the chops for it.
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? Reach out to him. What's the worst that can happen? No.
He says no.
And that's the worst. So anything better than that, go for it. But yeah, so if you've got gigs and things like that, or you want to act out your riffs that you've collaborated, where do you rehearse? How often do you get together, and where do you rehearse?
So it kind of varies. Well, we've got local places to us that we use. We tend to try and do it. We've been trying to do around like once a week in preparation for Bloodstock.
Yeah. Are you all quite close in it, or is Sam a wee bit further out, for example, and he has to travel a couple of hours to see you or whatever?
Yeah, Sam is down in Gloucester, so he often gets a train up to see us. Les is about an hour away from us. And Harry and I actually live in the same house.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, he's upstairs, I'm downstairs. Thought I'd just drop that bombshell on you there.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because sometimes Zoom works fine one-on-one, but see when there's like three, it cuts out after 40 minutes. But yeah, that's interesting. That's cool. So, yes, I don't know where I am now. Yeah. So now that the doors to gigs have opened up again, to playing live. Now, I looked on your Facebook page, for example, and all you guys have done is play live, but that's in the past now. So what do you have in store for us in the future? Or once you get Bloodstock out of the way, for example, you're just going to concentrate on the music and hold off on gigs for a few months?
We haven't really held off on gigs. We've got already the calendars sort of filling up a bit. But where we're looking to release singles, it's a little bit like less pressure to think about it being in like a big album cycle where it's like we're going to have to plan for this. Whereas it's like we're going to drop an album and see basically what kind of impact we can make with that single and like judge from there how we're going to do the rest of the releases, you know. So we'll continue to play gigs because, like I said, we're not going to be in this like big album cycle where we're going to have to stop and then hype it up to it. You know, I think that's something we'll be able to do alongside the gigs because we've got like a weekend later on in the year with Charybdis. I can never pronounce that name.
Charybdis.
Yeah, yeah, everyone knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And then There's like show offers coming in for sort of the end of the year at the moment as well.
You've got 3 dates somewhere, haven't you? You've got London and Brighton or something like that.
That's the one, yeah. It's,
Four dates now.
North, is it Notting? Is the first one Nottingham?
We've got London, Brighton, the Cobblestones in Bridgewater. And Wellingborough.
Wellingborough, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the other day.
Now, for a split second there, this is where the language differences come in. I thought you said Edinburgh, because I was actually going to ask if you recognise this country called Scotland.
Yeah, I've got a Scottish family. I'd love to play up Scotland.
I was going to say,
can you not tell that I like Scottish?
Because I was going to say, like, the last, this is the second year that it's running. I put on Moshville Winterfest last year with Dog Tired Headline, and Ash and Crown were meant to come up, for example, but they had issues. But this year I've got like Red Method headlining, Portrayal of Ruin, Torture Demon, and things like that. So it's only getting bigger, and that's in October. But next year, if you're looking to come up to Scotland, Glasgow's the place to be. There's so, honestly, I can't think of a time where there's so much music coming out of Scotland, and it's absolutely. And I think COVID has just done that. I think it's just people are realising that there's so many local bands that you can watch. Like just after COVID, no international bands were allowed to come and play. It was just your local bands, and people are recognising that there's a hell of a good local scene now again. So you're more than welcome to come up to Glasgow. You won't stay here though. I'll recommend hotels for you.
Finn has relatives, so
that's fine then.
Yeah,
Get up. That's fine.
Scotland. Yeah.
we were supposed to play Scotland a while back, but yeah, the COVID obviously impacted on that one, and we're friends with God Eater. I don't know if you're.
Yes, I was going to say that you wore the God Eater top in one of the videos, didn't you?
Yeah. So I got to know those guys because funnily enough, me and a few of the members were in the Black Dahlia Murder fan group. And I was like we were both releasing material roughly at similar times.
Yeah.
And we got talking. And so I love those guys. And then Party Cannon as well, they're great guys as well. So yeah, you've got some great bands up there, definitely.
Oh, if you don't look, like, death metal was my thing, so there's like Brain Bath, Coffin Mulch. Honestly, if you like your punky death metal, Coffin Mulch, look into that. You've got Penny Coffin, who are like the Scottish Decapitated. There's so many good bands. And yeah, so if you were to come up, then I would definitely get I can put you in touch with a good number of bands to get in touch with, and see if we can get a wee package together. But absolutely. But I've only got a few questions, 3 questions left. So I thank you very much for your time so far. But you've been with the growing DC Sound Attack for a while now. So how did it come about meeting Dan Carter? How's the relationship been so far, and what do you hope DC Sound Attack will bring to Embodiment?
So I got talking to Dan when we got offered the Bloodstock set, and because I immediately was like, we need someone in our corner here. And Dan previously was Fat Angel, right? And a lot of people had recommended us Fat Angel when that was a thing. Quite a lot of people had said to us, this is good. Dan's a good guy to work with. And when I'd seen that he'd started DC Sound Attack, I talked to Kieran from Ash and Crown quite a lot, and say those two, obviously
he's helping me with this gig in October as well. He's a good guy.
Yeah. He is a really good guy. He really helped me with the PR for Palingenesis, and so yeah, I'd seen the good work, and I heard the recommendations about Dan, so I messaged him straight away and was like, hey, would you be willing to help us out, like get some interviews in? And that's obviously how we're talking to yourself right now. And we'll be doing more at the festival, and I think we've got another one tomorrow. So Dan, what I wanted from Dan basically was to help us just like make that impact, because obviously we hadn't planned to play at the festival. One of the reasons we got the slot is because Unto Others pulled out, and then we got offered to replace them. So it was a bit like, I was a bit like, oh shit, what are we gonna do last minute? You know, I'm gonna need some help on this. And yeah, so far he's been really pulling through. You know, he's hooking us up with loads of stuff.
So what stage and what time are you on?
So we're on the Sophie stage on the Sunday. We're third from the top, but I don't know what time we're on. We haven't been given the advance yet. But that's what I could say. It's like it's us, then it's Zeal and Ardor, and then it's Biohazard. So I'm not quite sure where we'll be on. I'm not.
What bands that are got above you and never mind below you and stuff? That's an excellent slot that you've got. So fair play to you, and I hope it completely works out for you. And make sure that you take those 6, 7, or 8 boxes of merch with you, because I'm sure that you'll get rid of a few. Then I'm sure that you'll get rid of a few. But yes, just also about your album. Going back to it for a second, you released it independently. So where can we get the album? And further down the line, would you like the backing of a label, or do you like it being independent? You just put your own pressure on you, or would you like the backing of a label for future releases?
I was going to suggest Harry take this one.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Yeah. Well, we're not sure about a label. You know, the industry is so different now to, you know, how it would have been even 20, 30 years ago, where that would have been a crucial step of like how you're going to do it. I think there's just a lot more you can do DIY now. Where we're interested in stuff is like, you know, I say we're working with Dan, and like we're probably going to be working with him further after Bloodstock as well. I'd like to think maybe on some stuff, and we just to get some like get our foot in the door with some places, you know. But in terms of like band control, we are quite happy with like doing it ourselves. You know, I did all the PR for Palingenesis. You know, I just sent like I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails to every single blog I could find, and I'm happy to do that for the band really, because like say like we were touching on earlier with the different roles in the band, I was sort of happy to take that on.
Yeah.
You know,
and you can pick up the physical albums from Bandcamp as where we sell them online, or our embodiment page, embodimentofficial.bandcamp.com, or just come see us at a gig. We'll have them there. But you got
well, if you come to Scotland, I would.
Well, we've only got like 6 left or something like that.
Well, I need to get one because I noticed that they were only £7.50, which is
I know.
very reasonable.
We are very cheap, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I might have to get you to do me a favour though. One of the things that I like doing is getting albums signed. So the next time, well, I was going to say the next time you meet up at rehearsal, just go downstairs and get it signed, will you? So yes, definitely get it signed, and I'll put an order in later on tonight. But the last question I have for you, and it'll probably start another 40-minute discussion, is because we're going to talk about the instruments that you used in the recording of the album Palingenesis. And maybe, I don't know whether you've changed since then, but this is what we're going to find out. So we'll start off with you, Finn. What's your guitars of choice? What's your amp? What's your pedals? Because something tells me you're kind of a wee bit of a geek and you've got like 40 pedals on your board.
Well, I am a bit of a geek, I will give you that. But to say I've got 40 pedals is just nonsense. I've got one. I've only got one of my guitars with me because I dropped my other one off yesterday to get set up for Bloodstock. But this is my.
So is that the backup guitar you've got there? Then, if you're going on a week-long tour, would that be the backup?
Yeah, I suppose I've had this one way longer. It's an LTD MH1000. It's a pre-2005 model, which I got off the Andy Sneak forum years ago. Like ESP guitars are they've been my go-to guitar company for probably about 10 years.
Yeah, hint, endorsement agent.
Yeah.
Hint. Well, I'm gonna be paying a little visit to their little tents that they've got popping up around Bloodstock this year. But yeah, it's got EMG pickups in it, 85 in the bridge, 81 in the neck. The setup I stole from Adam D from Killswitch Engage, who's a big guitar influence for me.
Okay. Your 6 or 7 strings?
Oh, I'm only 6. I don't feel like I'm not ready to jump to 7 yet. And I've said this to Harry several times. I don't think I've quite mastered enough on a 6 to justify going to 7. And
To be fair, you probably only use 2 when you're recording an album anyway.
I use all 6. I use all 6, and I go all the way up to the 24th fret.
Oh, do you?
I have to, yeah. That's my rule. Every time I write a lick or a riff or something like that, it's gotta sound good. It's gotta look cool, and it's gotta like go from like here to here in like a space of 5 seconds or something like that.
Wow. Wow.
And I've said that. I've said that countless times.
He has. I can attest.
So what about your amps then?
I'm a digital guy. I've been a digital guitarist, digital amp user for ever since I started getting into recording like years ago.
Yeah.
I did have a head many years ago, and I did play with a head. Our last Bloodstock performance, I actually borrowed my friend Mike Perks, who plays in Ambrius. I borrowed his 5150 to play. But yeah, I've just, the way that the technology's been, the way that I've grown up with amp sims, I just haven't really jumped for anything. So the album I did with Bias Effects, Positive Grid, Bias Effects 2, I think. I have jumped into the new DSP game recently, which I've been using live. And I just find it a lot better for me to actually dial in a sound that I like, because in my perspective, when you go with an amp and say, for instance, you're not a backline, you're not bringing your amps, or you're not bringing your own cabs, your own mics, you haven't got the same room. There's just too many variables to get a consistent sound. Whilst if I do it with amp sims, I can dial in the sound that I need and just take it to every single venue, and you can tailor all the other tones and everything that you've got on your set around the same thing. So regardless of PA, everything should all work together. So
do you know, it sounds as if you've got absolutely everything in order when you're on stage and stuff like that. But what do you do if you break a guitar string?
I get a new one and string it.
Well, there you go.
Well, what I would do is, well, it depends what string it is, really. That's all I can say. It depends what string it is. If it's a high E, that might be tricky. But I would try and ignore it until we've got a break, and then I'd probably just let the show run on and get either a spare string and do it, or in Bloodstock case, we're actually bringing 2 guitars. Obviously, one I'll just keep at the side of the stage. We will swap for some songs.
Yeah.
But I'll just
backup and tuning differences, because I remember years ago. Were you with me to watch Zarath then?
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah, watching Zarath, and they were crushing it on the main stage. Fantastic band. Shame they broke up, but yeah, watching them absolutely crush it on the main stage, and then their guitarist broke a string. And ever since seeing that, it's always been a bit of a thing. Like, ooh, like
always have a backup, a plan B.
Yeah, I think it's only happened to us once, right, Finn? When we were just playing before that we played Les show, and it was like the string broke, and you happened just to have some on you in your case.
And I just took it. I was just whizzing it,
just quickly whizzed it on.
Give it a quick stretch, quick bend, quick stretch, quick tune, and I was good.
He's a natural, isn't he, Harry? He's a natural. Thanks very much for that, Finn. It sounds as if to me like if you were a wrestler in the Attitude Era, you would be Mr. Perfect. But thanks a lot for that. But thanks.
Very far removed. Very far removed from Mr. Perfect, but I appreciate that nonetheless.
No, you're stone cold. You like causing trouble, you. But you yourself, Harry, with you being the vocalist, then have you went through like a range of? Interests me. Have you went through like a range of microphones before you found the sound of a microphone that you like, or are you just a guy that's like, I don't know, give me the SM58 and I'll fucking sing into
Well, I seen online that the SM58 was the one to go with as like a base standard, so I bought one and used it and used one of Finn's for a while because I had no idea what I was doing. But when it came to recording, I can't remember what we used for the stuff before, but Finn had bought a SM7B and had like bigged up to me this microphone as like, oh, it's the same of like model that they've used on Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I was like, ooh, that sounds like it'll be great. But we did get fantastic results with it. Like when we did the recording, like I was really impressed by like how much better it sounded using that than it had done using before. And then for live, I was just using like a standard, SM58 or whatever. And I was just using the venue mics for a while, but I remember we played a show with Ingested, and the vocalist Jason, he showed me and he went, do you bring your own mic? And I was like, no, I don't bother. And he was like, you should. And then like got the venue mic and was like, look at the grill, and like took it the top off, and it was just gross. Like it was gross. And ever since then that's when I bought my own, was like bring it to every gig. And then when we started working more with Gabe, there's like a sound guy we use. He recommended I cannot remember what they're even called, but he recommended a brand of mic to me, a V5 or something. But even now he's such a tech guy. He's got like a million billion microphones. So yeah, he's always like, try this or try that or try this. And I just go, yeah, sure. This one's heavy or this one's light. I try to give it a because like I said, I'm not really a technically minded guy. In terms of like how we recorded and stuff, yeah, it's probably better on Finn to field this, like what effects we used or whatever, plugins and stuff.
Yeah. It's funny how I said about Steve Austin, and we're talking about microphones and the state of them. One of the best vocal performances I've seen is Today's the Day with Steve Austin, and the way he has the microphone, he actually swallows the whole microphone when he does some of his screams. So you can imagine what it's like for the next vocalist to use that microphone. So you're a wise decision getting your own. But listen, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It certainly won't be the last either if Dan Carter's got anything to do with it. But if you keep on releasing good music, then I definitely want to have another chat with you. And if something's out before the end of the year, you know exactly where I am. But this will come out in all my socials, or will go out on Moshville Times socials as well. But with your permission, I would like to play a song on Moshville Radio, like on a Thursday night on my dark metal show. I play from 8 till 10. In fact, that's something I forgot to ask. Before we come back to that, Harry, you've got your set list in front of you, and you've got the album all on the set list. What's the one that you want to play? What's your favourite song off the album for you to play?
Off Genesis.
Yeah. And why?
Honestly, it sort of comes and goes. I enjoy playing Outbreak, but it's such a painfully hard song to perform that I sometimes hate it when it comes to it. But like the part is so cool. I can't deny that that's a really fun one to play. Cool. But lately I've really been enjoying playing. We've got one called Satisfaction and Extermination. I've really been enjoying that one because it's just got like loads of energy in it. Good. So like I say, I don't know, man. It comes and goes. But Outbreak, probably lyrically, I was really pleased with that one because I did like a really fast part for the chorus, really pushed myself.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's a total pain in the ass to play, but I love it.
Good stuff. Thanks, Harry. And the same question to you, Finn. What's the song that you're most looking forward to playing? What's the fifth song in the set list, for example? That's the one I want.
The fifth.
I don't go for the actual fifth one.
I don't feel comfortable releasing that information. You just have to find out on the day. I think it's favorite songs to play.
It's a particular guitar solo that you either find a pain in the arse or you love playing.
It's probably like all the songs, to be honest. Every song has got some like ridiculously awkward bit. in it, which like sounded really cool at the time, but when you actually play it, it's
Yeah.
a bit annoying, especially because I like going up to the highest fret available on the guitar, and if I don't actually hit it, that upsets me.
It's probably the
But I
same
don't,
song, right? Like in terms of like the
yeah,
one that you I like. I hate playing that one, but love it at the same time.
yeah, like I really love Outbreak, but it's a pain in the ass. But but in terms of my favorite songs to play, Reverence has got to be up there. It's just like track opener. It's like it's such a heavy intro. Every single time we just play it, that intro just gets everyone, gets everyone going.
Yeah.
So, and that has got a very annoying solo in it as well. I just
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. So, with a song that I'll play in my show on Thursday night, then what song should I play off the album?
Oh, depends how long you got. I mean, I would say Xenogenesis into Harvesting the Seeds of Vengeance would be my pick, because it's my favorite one to actually listen to.
Yeah.
But obviously then it's like what, about 8.5 minutes at that point or something like that, Finn?
I don't like you that much for no.
Yeah, exactly. Probably Reverence to Disgust, like Finn said, it's the first track on the album. It hits like a truck. It's the one we just released a video for.
Yeah.
Like
a year ago or something. Yeah, that's exactly what we'll do on Thursday night. But whenever you've got like a song ready to play, if you're okay with an exclusive, I'll play it like the week before or the day before it's due for release or something like that. More than happy to do that for you. More than happy to have another interview with you guys. And yeah, Moshville Times will be all over you like a rash. So Moshville Times will also be at Bloodstock, so look out for us at the press tent. And I'll certainly be telling them as well to look out for you as well. So you know exactly where to find us, and we'll have another wee chat.
excellent.
Great.
Look forward to it. Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Right.
man.